Hey YouTube, so this is gonna be an emotional one. I've got my coffee here to console me, and the animals are not settled down, so if you hear them in the background or see them climb over me, yeah, I apologize, but let's just get into it. So it's been a difficult few days, and I fell back into old habits / coping mechanisms. My boyfriend and I broke up after 2 years, and it came as a bit of a shock to say the least. Now, realistically, this should have happened sooner. We should have taken a step back and not just a couple-week break from our relationship a while ago so we could both work on our respective issues. But we just tried and we kept trying to make it work until I guess it just became too much. And just to note that I'm not going to share everything in order to respect his privacy, but I will share as much as I can. Now, I knew he was under a lot of stress and for good reason. But unfortunately, I wound up in the crosshairs a few times and severely emotionally hurt as a result. Now, I do want to be clear, there was never any physical violence. But I started to feel like he'd put a wall up or was living a double life. Like, I knew he wasn't cheating on me or anything like that, but I just knew that things were bothering him that he was choosing to keep to himself no matter how much I begged him to be open with me. Now, I know it can't be easy to be in a relationship with me and my untreated anxiety and borderline personality. Like I said in my last video, he can't understand why I react to things the way I do, and the BPD especially causes severe reactions and outbursts to things that someone else may feel doesn't warrant that level of a reaction. He doesn't know what to do. He just knows that it happens, and all he can think to do is ignore me, which further presses my buttons. It's like throwing fuel onto an already raging fire. But it's also hard for me, as it would be for anyone really, but particularly me with anxiety and BPD, to be with someone who has this wall up at all times. So ultimately, between my mental health issues and whatever he's going through, our relationship became toxic. We fought as long and as hard as we could, but we just got tired, I guess. The love is still there, but so is a lot of pain. I'm in pain for my reasons, he's in pain for his reasons, and it's hard not to cause the other person pain when pain is all you feel. I hope I'm able to work through my issues and he's able to work through his, and God willing, we can find our way back to each other, but that's gonna take some time, some space, a lot of personal growth from both of us, and essentially rebuilding our relationship from the ground up. Like I said, we should have made the decision to be apart for a while a few months ago before it got ugly. The situation just reached a point where he did things to hurt and upset me, and I did things to hurt and upset him. And living with BPD, some things I said and did were particularly hurtful to him. He had said to me what upset him is how I chose to handle things. The thing is, I didn't choose to handle things in any particular way. My BPD made that choice for me. Not that I use my BPD as an excuse, because it's not an excuse. But there are just times where you're not in control or even conscious of your own actions. As someone who suffers from BPD, there are times where it can be confusing, scary, and downright painful. But it's also hard for the friends and family of the BPD sufferer, because they're usually caught in the crossfire, and it can be confusing and scary for them, and particularly difficult to understand. Now, over and over, I've been told, I don't know how to deal with it. I think if you're surrounded by people who are supportive and make an effort to understand your illness, that can help during recovery. But the reality is, that's a lot to ask someone to try to understand and be supportive. What I mean is, I don't think saying, this is too much for me, I need to take a step back while you get the help you need, makes someone a bad person. And at least in my situation, I equate it to having a loaded gun pointed at him whenever I was stressed, hurt, or over-emotional. Why him? Because the emotions usually had to do with him and our relationship. Several times over the last few months, I felt that I got close to pulling that trigger, and I knew if we didn't have space, like actual space, one of these days that gun would go off. And it finally did. And unless I get help to put it down and never pick it up again, it will always be pointed at him. Emotionally, that's a dangerous situation. And the reality is, I felt like I needed to devote as much time to my treatment and recovery as possible. Not that I didn't and don't love him and want to be there for him too, but right now, I have to be there for me, period. So while having support is necessary for recovery, I think there are situations where it may be healthier for both the sufferer and sufferee, is that a word? To have space, particularly if that someone is not supportive of or unwilling to familiarize themselves with BPD. I've had a lot of people outright blame me, telling me that I was just using it as an excuse and that it's all within my control, including whether I have BPD or not. Not that my boyfriend wasn't supportive or that he blamed me, quite the opposite. I think he did the best he could to be supportive and understand, but he was going through his own stuff too, and that's a lot to ask of someone. That would have been like him asking me to put what I was going through aside to understand and support what he was going through. So yeah, I just want to share this because suffering from mental health issues is isolating enough, and I think sometimes we feel like someone isn't supportive or is a hindrance, but it can be hard to cut them off because you don't want to feel more alone. Or as in my case, you know it's emotionally dangerous and maybe interfering with your recovery, but you try to convince yourself the support will actually help. But it's okay to let people go. I said I fell back into old habits, old coping mechanisms. It's been a hard week. That's an understatement. I did what I had to do to get through and make it through each day. I'm still so early in this process that I still haven't developed the proper coping tools, and particularly as it pertains to my BPD, only just recently realized how bad it was affecting me as I'd only been focused on getting help for my anxiety. So the coping methods were less about coping with anxiety symptoms and more about functioning through the aftermath of a serious dissociative event and the feelings that came with the breakup of a 2-year-long relationship. But I knew that setbacks would happen. When I quit drinking and when I quit smoking, the intent, of course, was to never drink or smoke again. But I also quit drinking and quit smoking to avoid using them as coping tools for anxiety. So what do we do when we fall off a bike? We dust ourselves off and we get right back on. So that's precisely what I have to do as well. I drank and I smoked, but I don't have to continue drinking or smoking, and today can be day one again. If I slip up in 2 weeks, well, that can be day one. There's always a day one. So that's all I have to say on this today. I knew this video was going to be challenging and I'm feeling pretty emotionally drained. So on that note, I'm going to end this video here, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.